makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. Today I am so excited to have a conversation with Kaci King, the CEO of West Ohio Tools CO, and a passionate advocate for manufacturing in the cutting tool industry. With 25 years of experience, Kaci has navigated through the unknowns of the pandemic and implemented innovative community giving back. She is also the author of Light Will Emerge and has been featured in Ohio Business Magazine Top 500. Good morning, Kaci. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. That's the way you say it, right, Kaci?
Yes.
And welcome, and I'm excited to hear about your journey from delivery driver to CEO of the company. So can you tell us about your background and how you become the CEO of West Ohio Tool?
Sure. My parents started the business 33 years ago. I was in high school. And so my dad was one of the original 4 that were hand-chosen or hand-picked to start the Honda Anna engine plant. And I was in high school at that time, maybe junior high at that time, actually, maybe elementary. It's been a while. But he put 10 years in with Honda and eventually worked his way into engineering and cutting tools and really liked it. But after 10 years, got really tired of, I guess, some of the corporate mentality and political red tape, he called it, and decided he could probably do things like that at home, starting his own business. So they started down that path. They started the business originally in what I would call, or they called, homeowner regrind service work. So maybe beautician, scissor sharpening, chainsaw sharpening. And it was in the back of their garage in one small room that my mom actually uses as a potting shed now. It was so small. So that didn't make very much money and didn't pay the groceries, and they weren't able to quit their jobs and go full time. So they had to begin to grow the business and eventually remodeled an old building on the property that part of it was an old chicken coop. And there was also like a shed part on the side, so it was bigger. They were able to get some new equipment. They started re-tipping and regrinding saw blades for local Amish woodworking shops, and also many people are familiar with Airstream, one of them. So they had those accounts and were growing the business that way, and then eventually went to, I believe it was a woodworking show where our machine manufacturer displayed. And my dad caught the vision really of that would be the stepping stone to get into industrial work that would eventually earn more money as they earned business. So they ordered their first machine. That machine would not fit into that chicken coop or that old shed. So they had to put a new building on their property, but they didn't have the cash flow to have someone else do it. So my mom and my dad each wore a harness and then put together their own steel frame structure and built the building. So my dad worked at Honda, my mom worked in billing at the hospital, and then they did all of this second shift and tried to sleep third shift. It became a lot. My dad ended up working third shift at Honda at one point, so they were working first shift in the business, second shift trying to sleep. My dad went to Honda on third shift, so it became a lot. But they just kept growing the business organically and then worked their way into manufacturing and automotive, because that's where a lot of my dad's contacts had stemmed from being at Honda and also Honda suppliers. So when I very first started with the business, I was just kind of their support. I cooked meals. I delivered to the Amish in the summer when I wasn't at school. And then I went off to college and got an accounting degree and worked. My parents always believed you need to work in the real world to go kind of get beat around by everybody else and go see what's out there, right? Yeah. Get some experience and not maybe take for granted what working for family might look like. So I
Yes.
did that, had a number of jobs, worked at Wendy's corporate, did some different temporary jobs through a temp service that was all for accounting, then ended up getting hired locally for a business that did medical equipment. They also ironically did some tooling. So they did different like bone drilling and different scopes. Um, they did a number of things, but I really kind of cut my teeth with my learning experiences there. The owners owned, I believe, 7 businesses. We did all the tax work, tax returns, payroll taxes. So I kind of cut my teeth with actual real world experience
Oh,
there. And then was pregnant with my daughter, my first child, and I came to my parents and said, "We're now in this bright new shiny building. You have your first employee, which was my brother. Certainly you need help doing payroll and payroll taxes, and aren't you ready for me?" And they said, "Well, not quite." And when I finally could make the jump, there wasn't, of course, enough accounting work to keep me busy. So I continued to help just with whatever needed done, shipping and receiving, delivery driving, answered phones. And then they would call and ask for the president. And we would say, "Just one moment." I would never say that it was my dad. So it was kind of humorous over time as we grew the business. And then I was off for 2 weeks with my second child, delivery of my second child, my son. And I came back and they said, "Hey, guess what? We're building in the industrial park." And I'm like, "I've been gone
what?
2 weeks. We're doing what?" So we moved into the building where we are now into an industrial park. And then we moved in January of 2001. We actually moved in over Christmas break. And then, so we started out as literally nothing, and mom and dad grew the business to 4 million in sales. So as we grew and added employees, I think we were in that 18-ish, 18, 19 employee neighborhood. So there was a lot more responsibility with payroll and
Oh,
taxes, and
yes.
then also invoicing. And, so then I had a lot of different hats, accounts receivable and accounts payable and payroll and shipping and receiving when necessary. But by that point, I was no longer delivering. And we were all mostly business to business. So there was no longer any homeowner industrial service work, regrinding, or any of that sort of thing. So we moved mostly into manufacturing at that point, and then just grew large enough that somehow I absorbed the title of CFO. And then my dad was still president in charge of the business. And then unfortunately, not to get into that story and be crying on air, but unfortunately we lost him a year ago, just over a year ago. So when dad had a stroke in 2019, my husband and I kind of said, my husband had never worked in the business, but had heard a lot about it in the kind of what we call the back wings, right? Um, every family holiday, I think, is spent talking about the business. It just naturally comes up, unfortunately. So he had heard a lot about it, and we really felt like really great with people. And when my dad had that stroke, we said to him it was important to us that he go home and enjoy every last day he was given.
Mm,
And he really had a very hard time with it. This was his baby. He created it from nothing, right?
yes.
So
Yes.
he had a very hard time, and we said, "Dad, let us take the reins. You don't need to be here slugging it out." And that was early 2020. And when he passed a year ago, then we kind of switched the titles around, and my title at that point became CEO. So that's the long and the short of it.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But he was an amazing man.
Yeah.
Like all that work, and he
Yeah.
succeeded. They made it happen,
They made it
together as a couple together, they actually made this happen. They worked hard enough to make it happen. Wow, this is an amazing story. That should be a book about
Yes.
them too.
Yes.
Yes. So now, when you took over last year, or you become the new CEO of the company,
Yeah.
and from watching your parents
Mm,
trying to make this happen to seeing it grow so big,
mm.
what would you say? What have you learned from this that you're gonna take to keep the company going for the next generation to come?
It's just really being connected with what we do, having a passion of serving customers, not so what we do is a very mechanical, technical making parts, right? We manufacture cutting tools and we also do service work. But I've tried to connect our team to my dad's original vision of we're not just making cutting tools. We're making a couple of our largest accounts are brake accounts for major automotive manufacturers, and really trying to connect the dots of we're helping somebody's car stop. We're helping somebody's car run. We're not
Yes.
just parts in and parts out, and it becomes the doldrum of this thing and this part and this um, cold, I don't know, processing through each step, but really to kind of connect the heart pieces and the dots of why we exist. And when Dad retired back in 2019, we actually installed a new, they call it EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, but it's basically a toolbox of tools that revolves around a book called Traction. And we were introduced to it back when my dad retired. Dad got very frustrated. He was trying to grow the business. We kind of had this plateau, and how do we get beyond it, right? And one of the pieces early on of that process was to figure out why the company existed and why are we here. And at the end of the day, we all said it's because we're so passionate about helping people. It's just that it's through this special niche of custom cutting tools. So
The why. So pretty much you
why?
just needed to know the why behind
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So can you share with us your mission and goals? Where do you see the company, let's say 10 years from now?
Well, definitely our main goal is to first double the size of the business and then eventually triple. We have 20,000 square feet here, and we're roughly in half of it, maybe just over
Wow.
half. So we hope there's an internal wall that is actually movable. We've already had to move the wall once, but we're ready to grow into the other parts of the current standing building. The business, as I mentioned before, was largely grown through automotive, and that still is our mainstay of our customers, the majority of the work we do. But our long-term goal has always been to diversify. And in 2008 and 9, when the economy kind of took a dip, automotive took a big hit. We took a big dip. And
Yes.
also with COVID, right? COVID, we
Yes.
saw automotive manufacturing shut down. Honda and Toyota, who we both supply, shut down for
Down.
roughly 8 to 10 weeks. And that took a huge hit on our business. For the first time ever as a business owner and CEO, I wondered how we would keep food on everybody's table.
Table.
Oh, I learned what anxiety felt like if I hadn't remembered feeling it before. We have a lot of skilled trades that have been here for a while, and to train them takes 2 years. We couldn't allow them
Wow.
to be on unemployment because what's the first thing that happens? As an employee, you feel not taken care of. I'm out to find who will keep me. Those people don't come back, and you'd have to start your business from scratch. So if we had never truly felt it prior to that time, it was to do anything necessary to grow into other industries, no matter what it took. And from there, it's kind of a crazy story, but we've been dabbling in aerospace. We have a big sector in what we call industrial. We have some recreational things. We are actually connected to the NHL hockey puck. We make some cutting tools
Ooh.
for that, which is fun. Also for marine engines, we have some accounts for that. So there are diversification with accounts, just not overall dollars, right? So we started looking at where do we go now? We have some tooling and some composites. So we're like, we could pick up aerospace, we could pick up additional recreation items, whether it's snowboards or even paraplegic limbs. So we've been looking at a vast opportunity of items. When we stumbled into a networking event in August and somebody asked me the question, Kaci, do you guys do any Department of Defense governmental contract work? And I said, it has been so hard to figure out how to do that. It's been like pulling hen's teeth. We don't know anybody. We're not connected to anybody. How do we make that happen? And he said, I have a guy for you. And I was like, ah. So,
Thank you.
yes, because the Department of Defense contract work can gain you 5 to 10-year contracts, unlike
Yes.
what we currently experience, which is one PO at a time, right? So
Yes.
as automotive uses their tooling, they place one PO for more tooling. That's not a year blanket. And it can be sometimes what feels very volatile. And if we have equipment that's old that needs replaced, it's sometimes a leap of faith to replace that when we don't know what the future holds. And no one predicted the pandemic. So, Department of Defense has been really amazing just in the very few short months we've gotten hooked up with it. We have our first order from a company called Northrop Grumman, who actually manufactures our stealth bombers. We just got back from Vegas from something called the SHOT Show, which is really based around all defense. It's firearms manufacturing, but not from like really a hunting perspective as much as it is from military and police defense type work. We already are making some tooling for some defense accounts, and so we were able to meet with them there. And we've already gotten several RFQs and brand new orders just in a week from being back. So I feel like the momentum and energy that people must be feeling, that we're so excited to expand our business and help new people, but really find the security for the business and for our team to be kind of locked into some long-term contracts is very exciting. And it feels possible. The vision finally feels possible. So,
but I think it was always possible, Kaci, because
yes,
you have two hardworking parents,
yes,
blood dripping
yes,
inside you.
yes,
So it was always possible. You just needed that moment, that chance for someone to say, "Hey, how can I help?"
yes.
And God sent that your way.
Yes. And my dad used to say we just continue to poke our nose down every rat hole possible just to find what's out there, and always had really the mentality of you never know where you're going to go or who you're going to meet that's going to lead to somebody that's going to make a very huge difference. And another piece of the huge difference for us has become with the governmental contracting piece of it. There's a lot of diversity importance, whether that's with women, veteran-owned, a huge group of different types of ownership. And the government's sounds like adamant about maybe 3 to 5% of everything they buy be from one of these groups of women-owned, veteran-owned, whatever that might be. So that governmental contract for us has been really big. Our contact with them has been helping us gain that certification. We've already passed that for the state of Ohio, but now we're currently waiting certification. All the information's been submitted, it's been pending, and we're waiting for that kind of final seal of documentation for both small business and women-owned. And it's been really crazy. Just the few people that we've met, for example, we met a woman through a group called Women in Manufacturing, and her and I really hit it off. She's super amazing. We connected on LinkedIn. She's been super supportive. We had a brand new video about the company made, and in that video, it talks about how we're still family owned, but now we're 100% women owned. And by her clicking like, it opened it up for their major company, their major automotive manufacturer that we currently do not do business with. And this guy saw it who's in charge of supplier diversity. And he reached out to me and said, would you perchance have the women's certification? Your video mentions that you're women owned. So it's been really crazy to me. We're the same people. We make the same things. We have the same passion. But just by obtaining women's certification or getting connected with the federal people for Department of Defense work, how much I feel like the business is really taken off in the last several months. So,
Well, let's look at it this way. A lot of people close their doors,
yeah.
and for you, doors are just opening.
Yes. And it feels so amazing.
Yes, and God knows as women, we need that break. We actually really need it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now, is all of the products or all the services done within the United States, or do you outsource them to other country?
We do them here at our facility in Ohio.
And do you plan on continue doing that, or do you plan on making the change to go faster?
We plan to make the change to grow and expand what we're doing. We just don't have a plan to how do I want to say outsource to additional facilities or to start another location
Sure.
or to send our work overseas. We're very passionate that it's made here in the United States and
Yes.
want to keep it that way.
And I
So,
think that also will keep your dad vision stay.
yes. Yes.
Because I don't think he wants that at all.
He used to say that we would lose, which is so true. You lose control over cost, quality, and delivery the minute that somebody else is involved. And then, of course, if
Yes.
you ship it overseas, it takes so much more time and you have all the shipping involved. And you really, I don't know, you start to lose all of that. Then people overseas can analyze what you're doing and maybe even take the business, right?
Yes,
So we
exactly.
try to do everything we can to keep it here and all hands on deck and keep it all local.
And I think so also it's a great thing because with the economy we have right now, going overseas, we're only sinking our own country even more because now we're
Yeah.
giving the work out to other countries instead of our people here that need the job. That's actually,
Yes.
they need work because they have
Yeah.
children, they have mouth at home to feed, and there's no money to do that. So I think I appreciate that. So I'm curious to know about your experience as a woman in a leadership role in the manufacturing industry because this is a very male dominated industry.
Yes. And cutting tools for sure. I think automotive has become more women oriented, at least from what I can see. And even locally, we have a woman that I graduated with and some other local friends that are women that are in local automotive businesses. But it is for sure very male dominated, and the cutting tool industry is even more so male dominated. I think that I've been blessed because I've been part of the business for 25 years full
Yes.
time. So that's kind of been one feather in my cap that's made it a little easier to take over after my dad because people already knew me. And I'm learning that it's also a positive thing, as scary as it seemed in the beginning, because I hadn't led the company before. Um, I have all this experience and we already know all of these people, but I
Yes.
didn't really realize that there were all of these really opportunities because of such a big push for diversification. There's so many opportunities through so many amazing women network. I mean, your guys' magazine is just even proof of it, right? It's celebrating and empowering women and lifting people up. And there's a women in manufacturing group. There's a women group specifically for women in defense that I've gotten involved with since we're now a supplier. Um, but it's having those resources to kind of have each other's back, to learn and grow from each other about things that we don't currently know from, and just be willing to step up and step out, I guess, and not being afraid to be seen, not being afraid to, I guess, do the podcast, right? It's just,
Yes.
yeah, we could have a very quiet representation of who we are. And I don't think the quiet representation really represents us as a team. Like, we're excited, we're very proud of what we do. And we've all decided as a team, people need what we have. People need the services, people need the tooling. But it was getting some more tools underneath my own belt and learning along the way quickly. Because I was always more of that support role to my mom and dad, and especially my dad once my mom retired in 2016. I didn't really have that full responsibility or the brunt of the decision making, right? Until now.
Right.
So as we went through this process, it was to find other leaders and to really talk to a lot of people what's working for you, what doesn't work. Give me your best advice and your worst advice. And what's your biggest mistake that you wish never happened? And what have you learned from it? Because we can learn so much more from that always than we can our accomplishments, right?
Yes.
And then in the process of what we call EOS that's out there, I mean, it's a global system, it was really embracing a couple of ideas. Learning to love problems, which is not my nature by any stretch of the imagination. Learning to, if you're going to manage and lead people and run a business, it's part of everyday life. So
Yes.
it was learning to embrace that, and then learning to embrace not focusing on the problem, but focusing maybe on how to solve the problem, and then celebrating what we feel is every win. Because as a leader, if you focus on all of the problems, it's so easy it just gets very heavy and burnout sets in and it gets very tiring. So it was kind of shifting the lens which I viewed what was happening. Here's all the problems to, oh, yay, I have another problem. Lay it on me. Like, let's do it. Right? And then really not trying to get bogged down by the problems, but to celebrate, oh my gosh, you guys, as a team, let's step back and realize what we've done this year and all the huge improvements. Our business was not, I don't feel like, on a sustainable path with the prior management team that was here. And we really took a lot of steps to improve the rate at which we were capturing quotes to orders, the rates at which we were quoting to new customers. So we really tried to dial in on all of the systems that weren't currently working, find solutions, and if that didn't work, to tweak and go again. But then most importantly, to kind of step back, even if we aren't where we want to be, we repaired, all the holes in the foundation, and look at all the wins we're starting to have as a result. And then on top of all of that, we learned how important as a part of EOS, and we kind of have our own little tweak to it. They say 100% of the right people in the right seat. And our little additional tweak is also on the right bus. So the people that you're leading have to have your back. They have to blend and have each other's back. And we had a lot of the opposite going on when my husband and I first stepped in to manage. And we started realizing the people who were responsible needed to go, because we couldn't keep the cancer going and have this amazing culture. Manufacturing's all about teamwork. It's not what one person does. It's what a group of people do from department to department, and what's the end result. So we had to capture the company culture back. We had to make sure the people that were within our organization were meant to be here and deserve to be here. And then were those people in the right position? And when we started, we almost call it poker. We played one card at a time and would watch the ripple effect. And we ended up replacing the entire management team, which was very difficult in a small business. We were almost afraid what the effects would be, but we were so determined to bring into alignment everyone's core values with the company's core values, and that if that didn't align, they couldn't stay. So there was...
How was that? How did that went up? That turned out okay, right?
Finally, yes. 3 years later, I can celebrate the fact of we're in a much better place. But yes.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. The changes had to be done slowly, right? Over time. We couldn't just walk in and say, you, and you're done. We gave people opportunity to change their behavior. We had conversations around what was no longer acceptable under our management, and then gave people the choice. And when ultimately their lip service to us said one thing, but their actions showed another, it was time to show them the door on the bus and sorry, you're no longer welcome. So
But I think it was for the best because you can't grow if like you said, if everything is not in place together, like we don't have each
Yes.
other back, we're not working, we are working against each other, then we're not
Yes.
gonna go anywhere. And that's exactly what, if we're looking at our own country, that's exactly what happened during the pandemic. We were not helping each other. We were working against one another. And that's the reason why we went down to the ground. So I think your method, if actually everyone was doing that, we would have been in a better situation than where we are today. So I think I love your method. You didn't do it overnight. You took the time to make it happen, but it's worth it because at the end of the day, you don't have to feel guilty. Wait, I just fired that person. How they gonna do
Yes.
this? You
Yes.
know?
And we didn't want it to feel like a dictatorship. We didn't want to shock everyone by saying, hey, my dad hired you and this isn't working. You and I
Mm-hmm.
are like sandpaper. We wanted to give people the opportunity to improve themselves. And we also couldn't put the company in jeopardy
Yes.
by switching out everybody who had all the knowledge. We couldn't switch them all in and out. Like, it just takes so long in our industry and in our business for people to learn and grow and understand what needs done and the technical side of things that we had to just kind of be very intentional about the next move that we made. So,
But I think you did it the smart way, which is actually the best way you could possibly, because you give them a chance, you approach it, you help them walk through it, and it's your decision. You make your own decision
yes,
to do whatever you want to do. But unfortunately, there's other people in this company that's actually want to grow and that's actually want to continue to feed the family. So I can't
yes,
make, I can't fire all of them just to keep you because that's what. No, it doesn't work that way. So
yes.
now, can you share? You have a passion for training with your amazing dogs. Can you tell us about this passion of yours?
Oh, it's just so fun. I'm not sure what the animals do for me, but oh yeah, it's fun. We have a rescue Rottweiler. Her name is Roxy. When we first got her from a foster, we picked her up from a rescue, but a foster home per se had her. And the woman literally sat in the garage. She kind of yelled out from a corner of the garage and said, I'm in here, I'm in here. And she would sit with like this gigantous, thick horse lead rope on this dog. And she was like her arms extended, her heels were dug into the floor. She said this is the only way I could control the dog. And we drove 3 hours and she wasn't as well behaved as what they insinuated. So we were
Yes.
like, oh, what do we do? We didn't come all this way to not get her, but I knew when I put her in the car, I had to make a commitment to her and us as a family that we would do everything possible to get her turned back around. And thankfully, she had a nature that she was really interested in pleasing people. She just was extremely reactive and extremely reactionary. And I wasn't sure. She was our third Rottweiler, but she was 100 pounds and she was very strong and she was lunging at stuff. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. So we work very closely with a dog trainer who's very smart. And we always tell her she speaks dog and she can help translate to us as owners how we can communicate better, but also how kind of like in the business, there's such a theme, whether it's my children or the business or my dogs, there has to be some level of accountability, right? And
Yes.
and respect. And once the respect is there for both sides and we're all accountable for our behavior, it's incredible what a team, whether it's a human and dog team can accomplish or a team of people can accomplish. It really is. And I just have been I was never on, like, I'm not an AKC dog girl. I'm not, hey, let's go be in a bunch of competitions. I just find great joy in training the dogs. And I don't know, Rox has really lit my heart up to see how far she's come. In fact, we test on Monday for an advanced community canine. So she could literally be in public. And I never really would have thought, here's this dog so reactionary that could actually go and sit and eat at a restaurant and mind her manners while we're there. So that'll be fun. Stella is our Australian Shepherd, who's actually my husband's dog. Somehow I signed up to do all the training, which I've enjoyed. But she's so great natured. She is so amazing and so has such a great sense about her that it has been really fun. She has several trick dog titles. She has several AKC community canine titles. And then we're currently under therapy dog testing just so we can, I don't know, kind of give back, I guess, from the kids that have been through all of the surgeries. And a big important part of their healing was animals, whether they just sat and held something on their lap or pet something. Animals, I guess, have been a very important part of our journey. And it's just, we just decided with the Australian Shepherd, it would just be fun to share her with others and help give back in that healing way that we were blessed to have when the kids went through so much.
And I think also that you love spending time with them. Maybe it's a way of you to take a moment away from the business, from being the leader, from being all this, and just have fun, relax, and enjoy life.
It's exactly it.
So now, you also your experience advocating for your children's medical needs, and how that led you to writing your own book, which is Light Will Emerge. I love the title.
Thank you. Are you familiar with Dr. Ben Carson?
No.
He's amazing. He is so amazing. He, I believe, is the youngest, and I should know his story off the top of my head, and I apologize. I feel kind of rusty on it, but we had tried several neurosurgeons in the state of Ohio, and I felt like each one kind of took their stab at it, but our son was with 2 different neurosurgeons in Ohio, and after every surgery got worse, and we honestly thought we were losing him. And we were put in touch. It was before Facebook was a thing. I mean, it was 20-ish years ago. And there was a website, like a forum, where us moms could get on and talk about the same diagnosis and who was helping and who wasn't helping, and don't go to that doctor. But we found a lot of success with this one. And thankfully, I found another mom in the same state of Ohio. They had also seen all the same teams that we did. And she's the one that said, "Oh, Kaci, you need to go see Dr. Carson." I believe, if I remember correctly, he's the youngest neurosurgeon to ever be in charge of a pediatric neurosurgery unit, and it was for Johns Hopkins. He has an incredible story. He's written several books. His mom, I believe, was unemployed. They were on welfare. She demanded that they read a book, if I remember right, once a week and do a book report. She couldn't even read it. She couldn't read or write. She had no idea what they were even saying.
Wow.
But she pushed both of the boys to do this. And one became a neurosurgeon, one became an architect. And then at some point, he retired from neurosurgery in Johns Hopkins and tried to run for presidency. In fact, he ran for the Republican seat against Trump before Trump was president.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember him now?
Now I know who he is.
So when we wrote the book, I wrote the book, honestly, because one day sitting at his office, he said, "Kaci, I have treated over 2,000 children, and I can count the number of children that share the same condition on 1 or 2 hands. And I think your story needs told." And I said, it's ironic. When I graduated high school, it was like I'm a big list person. And I had this big, long list of bucket list items that I would love to do someday. And writing a book was one of them. But I said I never really thought I would ever have anything to really write about. And he said, "Well, now you do." He said, "You write about your story." And I made a deal and asked if he would write the foreword, I would write the story.
Aww.
And he agreed. So he wrote the foreword. My husband was very gracious and watched the kids for many, many hours, whether I was working at the business or sitting in front of a computer typing a book. And it took a long time to write, with working in the business, still being a mom, and trying to get a book written and put together. But we did it. So
where can people get the book?
It's definitely on Amazon. I I would recommend that for sure. It's just easy. A lot of people order from there. We used
Yes.
to have a website. We no longer have the website, but if it's a new book, it will go directly to the publisher and they'll print it from there. But I would say Amazon's probably
Amazon.
overwhelmingly the easiest. Yep.
Yes, I cannot wait because I want to read that book because I think the story is amazing already. If you decided to say, hey, you need to go do that, there might be something some people need to learn from this. That's the reason why he wanted you to tell it, you know?
And when
Um,
he asked us to write the story originally, looking back, the internet was not, I mentioned that once before. We just had these forums we would go on the internet, but Facebook wasn't a thing. It was very difficult to find people like us and multiple medical diagnoses. And my brain has a hard time with what if. And I think
yeah,
when you're a mom and your kids are struggling for their lives, it's hard to not sit and think about what if. What
what
if I
if
lose
it's
them? They're not doing well. What if this? What if that? And I just wanted to read somebody else's story like mine. I went through this process before we found Dr. Carson that I was begging doctors to talk to other people like us. Like, well, I can't, it's
Mm,
HIPAA, it's this, it's that. I can't share their information. And when Dr. Carson suggested the book, and the internet really wasn't a thing at the time, I said, this is a way that another mom yearning to hear someone else's story to know at the end of the day, no matter how hard it gets, it's going to be okay.
okay.
Like, I just I just wanted to know that along the way, and we'd never found a lot of peace from that angle. So, if anything else, I said, to help another mom realize it's all going to be okay in the end. And also, it would be narrated and all written down for our kids someday because they were so young. You
Yes.
also mentioned the title Light Will Emerge. That actually came from a speech that Dr. Carson gave. He spoke at Youngstown University in Ohio, and there was a mom at the very end with the question and answer session that asked the question. Her child had a different condition than ours, and it was a very trying and a long process and a lot of surgeries. And Dr. Carson said once they get it right and find exactly what's needed, light will emerge. And at the time when we heard that, we hadn't only been through like 3 surgeries. We hadn't been through the 27 we have now. And
27?
yeah, looking back, I just thought that phrase kept me going. Like watching the mom during the question and answer session, I thought I was tired. I thought, how can we keep doing this? And yet we thought we had finally arrived and the light at the end of the tunnel was finally there for us. And later, as time kept going, we realized we're not there yet. And I would always reflect on that phrase. So
Wow, that's a lot of surgery. A
it's a
lot.
lot of surgery.
So now, can you discuss the role of your children in the business and how you balance work and family life?
So my daughter actually has taken over my accounting duties. She is, she gives me a hard time because when I tell people how old she is, I never get it right. So I always have to stop and I have to think about how old she is. She'll be 25 this summer. So yes, it's crazy how time flies so fast, isn't it? So she's handling all the
Yes.
payroll, and I've been training her how to do payroll taxes and how to learn about depreciation, and
Aww.
she's doing amazing. She has almost all of it under her belt, and now I just check her work or if there's anything that sticks out to me, but yeah, she's doing amazing. And she's on our leadership team, and her opinion has been very valuable, both from her age perspective and a third generation family member. And so it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. My son does have some frontal lobe damage, so sometimes math can be challenging as a result. And everything we do here is very math oriented. It's very technical and a lot of like geometries and calculations. And for a while, he was what we call a load and go guy. He would put parts in, start the machine, check the
Hmm.
parts. He wouldn't set up or do any programming. And now that we have other employees here, sometimes Austin gets the short end of the stick because he's part time. So he gets kind of juggled around with just wherever we need a fill-in guy. So it may be sorting scrap, it might be tearing down old machines, it might be running parts as a load go guy, it might be at home helping us play catch up on stuff at home because we haven't had time to get to it because we work 12 hours. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so he's kind of our fill-in guy for now that just kind of floats around and does whatever we need. But he's very much an extrovert, very much loves people, and so he would rather be at the business than home at the farm doing work. But we've been very blessed to have both kids come as far as they have,
Yes.
and during days we weren't sure what the future would hold. So
Exactly. I feel like you are repeating all over again because now your daughter is doing what you are doing, and it's kind of like the way you see it's kind of the pattern. It's like the way it's kind of continue, and I can't wait to see what her daughter will be doing within the company.
yeah.
So it's amazing. So
Yeah.
I have one last question for you before I let you go. March is Women's History Month, and as women, we struggle a lot, either because society think we're not good enough in business, we're not good enough in this, we're not a good leader. I don't know how they come up with that. I think that's just their stories. It's not our story. But any advice do you have for women out there that is carrying all of this into the shoulder? It's like a lot to deal with on a daily basis. And I know you manage a lot yourself. What advice would you give to them?
Advice which I would give to them: extend yourself a lot of grace. Know you're worth more always than what society ever feels. And honestly, knowing you're worth more than what we as women usually even recognize for ourselves, right?
Yes.
That topic or that theme kind of does go deep to my soul. And in 2014, I landed in Belize on a private island that was a mile long. It was for a personal development course. And it was all about the theme of not feeling good enough. And that was really life changing for me. It was the first time I'd ever traveled internationally alone. So that was kind of a big stepping stone for me. And then really listening to the speaker that we were so tightly ingrained with for an entire week, his messaging, and really learning, I guess, to change the lens in which I viewed the world. Like, not um we have a lot every day to be grateful for. We are worth every ounce of our weight in gold. And it's finding ways to fill our cup and fill our soul and recognize all of those wins and our value. Yoga helped me a great deal with that, as crazy as that may seem. Just being willing to let go of the narrative, right? That
Yes.
we aren't good enough, and find ways to recognize what we are good at. And as a mom and a business owner and a leader and all the roles we fill, recognizing what brings us happiness, what brings our own soul love, what do we have to carry, what are we currently carrying that's not ours to carry, and what can we set aside, and recognizing what's important to try to find balance. Career is important, but family is important. How much do we stack on ourselves? At one point, I think the guy said to me, which was a huge eye opener, you're almost biting off more than you can chew to prove your own worthiness, right? Like,
Yes.
focus on what is important and what you want to be good at. And if it's your career and being a mom and whatever else, you can't stack 10,000 things in to just show yourself that you're worthy and you're good enough. But I really believe, since I've been leading the company, a huge factor of my support system has ironically been other women. And no other time in my life really has that been prevalent. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, I have other girlfriends, I have friends that I do yoga with that are amazing. But really finding a network of people who support your soul, deep to your soul. They don't make judgments. They're willing to hold space with you on the hard days.
Yes.
They're I think we need those kind of people in our lives, and the people that aren't critical and aren't judgmental, because we are so critical and judgmental of ourselves. And then finding the people who can support us and hold us up. And I don't know, the subject is so, I guess, detailed and so deep for me. I feel like there's no really easy answer, but knowing that when you come from a place, and I've been there, I've so been there with relationships, with family relationships, with my career, people who've tried to take me out along the way, you start to pile them up, right? And the narrative becomes, well, this person doesn't like me, and that person doesn't like me, and that person tried to get me thrown out of the business, and that person walked off. It's almost easy to carry this basket full of pain and hurts that pile up, and then all we can see is that. So recognizing that as humans, we're, as much as we believe we need to love and get along with everybody, it took a long time to learn every person wasn't meant for me, and to be willing to kind of set my own expectation that in order to find peace, everybody doesn't belong in your tribe, and you search deep and wide for the people who can support you on a deep level, but just observe and listen and don't make judgment, and be willing to let the others go, because your peace is not worth holding on to anyone that can't. So
best advice ever, Kaci. Best advice ever.
It's taken a lot of years to get to that point and really learn it, right?
Yeah, it's come from experience. You went through it.
Yes, and a daily intentional choice, because every now and again you can almost creep back in, and you've got to kind of learn to put the blinders on and recognize you are worthy, what you are good at, pour your heart and energy into that. So
exactly.
Yes.
I completely agree with you on that. Thank you so much, Kaci, for sharing your inspiring journey with us about the company. Your parents are amazing. Your kids are part of it. It's amazing to see it. You know, as women, the thing that we can do, people sometimes don't even want to give us the chance. Like you said, they were trying, hey, let's get rid of her because she's not supposed to be there. She's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's when people give us a chance, magic happen. All we ask for is give us the chance to make the magic happen. And you are an example of that. And having your daughter already part of the company, I can imagine what next for this company. I think it's just going to grow and grow and grow bigger because there's strong women behind it that's making it happen. And also there's great men, strong men with it as well. But
yes,
it takes a little specialty from a woman to make the impossible possible. So I appreciate your insight in all you do to support not just your team, but also women.
Thank you. Your words mean so much. I would love to send you a copy of the book. I have plenty of extra copies. So have your team send me an address that we can send a book.
I look forward to reading it. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.